Let me ask you something personal. Think about the last time you stood in your kitchen, opened the fridge, and genuinely felt confident about what you were about to eat. Not guilty, not confused, not second-guessing whether the bread you just bought was actually whole grain or just labeled that way. Just confident. For most people watching this right now, that moment is rarer than it should be. And here's what I want you to sit with for just a second. What if the meals you've been eating, the ones you actually thought were healthy, are quietly working against you? Not in a dramatic, scary way, but in the slow, invisible kind of way that only shows up 10 years from now. In the way your energy feels at 3 in the afternoon. In the way your muscles feel after a walk that used to be effortless. In the way you feel about your own body when you wake up in the morning. What if a few simple shifts, things you've never been clearly told, could genuinely change all of that? Stay with me, because what I'm about to share comes directly from USDA nutrition research and federal health guidance designed specifically for adults over 50. And buried inside that research is a detail that most people completely overlook. A detail about protein timing, about hydration, about the foods that feel healthy but are quietly stealing your strength. We're going to get there. But first, I need to reframe something you probably believe right now that simply isn't accurate. Here's a belief I hear all the time. I've been eating more or less the same way my whole life. I'm fine. My body is just changing because of age. And I want to say this with genuine respect, because there's some truth in that. Yes, your body is changing. That part is real. But here's where most people get it wrong. The changes happening in your body after 50 aren't just happening to you. Many of them are being shaped, sped up or slowed down, by what you eat every single day. And the frustrating part? Most of the nutrition advice out there is written for 30-year-olds. It assumes a body that hasn't changed, a metabolism that's still running at full speed, muscle mass that's still easy to build, hormones that are still cooperating. Your body at 55, 65, or 75 operates by a different set of rules. And nobody handed you that instruction manual. That's what today is about. The guidance we're drawing from today comes from the National Institute on Aging, which partnered with USDA nutrition researchers to create specific healthy eating guidance for older adults. This isn't generic advice. This is research aimed directly at people in your stage of life. And within that research, there are insights that are genuinely surprising, even to people who consider themselves healthy eaters. Here's a small one to get you curious. The amount of protein your body actually needs to maintain muscle mass changes significantly as you age. And most people over 50 are eating far less than their body needs, even when they think they're eating well. We'll come back to that, because the how of eating protein matters just as much as the how much, and that's the part nobody explains clearly. But let's start at the beginning. Let's talk about what healthy eating actually looks like for your body right now. Not the food pyramid you memorized decades ago. Not the Mediterranean diet your neighbor keeps mentioning. Not the detox plan your cousin tried last spring. I mean the actual evidence-based pattern that supports energy, independence, brain function, and physical strength for adults specifically in the 50-plus age range. The USDA has outlined 3 primary healthy eating patterns that are backed by nutrition research, and I want to walk you through them, not to overwhelm you, but to give you options, because one of the most important things I can tell you is this. There is no single perfect diet. There is only the eating pattern that works for your life, your food access, your health conditions, and, yes, your taste preferences. Because let's be honest, if food doesn't taste good, you're not going to eat it. That's not a character flaw. That's just being human. The first pattern is called the healthy US-style eating pattern. Think of this as the baseline. It's built around foods that Americans already tend to eat, just in better balance and better quality. The foundation includes a variety of vegetables, not just the ones you like, but a real variety, different colors and types, along with fruits, whole grains, low-fat dairy, seafood, poultry, and lean meats. It also includes eggs, nuts, seeds, and soy products. Now here's what makes this different from just eating your vegetables. The emphasis is on variety, because different vegetables, different fruits, different proteins, they each carry different nutrients. And after 50, your body becomes less efficient at absorbing certain vitamins and minerals. So the wider you cast your nutritional net, the better your chances of actually getting what your body needs. This next detail changes everything. It's not just what you eat, it's what you're not eating enough of. As we age, our calorie needs generally decrease, but our nutrient needs either stay the same or actually increase. Let that land for a moment. You need fewer calories, but more nutritional value per calorie. That means every bite matters more than it did when you were younger. Every meal is an opportunity, or a missed opportunity. And this is exactly why processed foods, foods high in added sugar, or foods loaded with sodium are especially costly for older adults. Not because they're poison, but because they take up space in your day's eating without delivering the nutrients your body is quietly desperate for. The second eating pattern is the healthy Mediterranean style pattern. This one tends to get a lot of attention, and for good reason. Compared to the standard US pattern, it includes more fruits and more seafood, and less dairy. The Mediterranean approach has been associated in research with reduced risk of heart disease, better cognitive function, and lower inflammation. Now, I want to be careful here. Research suggests these associations. It doesn't guarantee outcomes. Your individual health is shaped by genetics, activity level, sleep, stress, and dozens of other factors. But the pattern itself is genuinely nutritious, and for many people it's also delicious, which matters more than most nutrition experts are willing to admit. The big stars of this pattern are seafood, especially fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, and sardines, along with olive oil, legumes, and abundant fruits and vegetables. If you're someone who enjoys fish and you're not eating it at least twice a week, this is one of the simplest, most research-supported upgrades you can make to your current eating habits. And no, you don't need to move to Greece to eat this way. A simple roasted salmon fillet with a side of vegetables is Mediterranean-style eating. A tuna salad on whole grain bread is Mediterranean-style eating. It doesn't have to be complicated or expensive. The third pattern is the healthy vegetarian eating pattern. This one contains no meat, poultry, or seafood. It does include low-fat dairy. And compared to the standard US pattern, it relies more heavily on soy products, eggs, beans and peas, nuts and seeds, and whole grains. Now here's where I want to address something directly. If you're not a vegetarian, and most people watching this aren't, you might be tempted to skip past this section. But don't. Because even if you have no intention of giving up meat, this pattern teaches you something valuable. It teaches you to treat plants as the main event, not the side dish. It reminds you that beans, lentils, tofu, and nuts are not rabbit food. They're powerful protein sources packed with fiber and nutrients that most Americans are chronically short on. Even adding 1 or 2 plant-forward meals per week has real nutritional value, not because meat is bad, but because variety is good. And variety is exactly what your aging body is asking for, even when it can't use words. Now, let's talk about the thing I mentioned at the beginning, protein. This is the part that most people get wrong. And I mean that sincerely, not as a dramatic hook, but as a real gap in what older adults are being told about their own nutrition needs. Here's the situation. After the age of 50, the body begins a process called sarcopenia. That's the gradual loss of muscle mass. And it doesn't happen dramatically. It's slow, quiet, and often invisible until it's already significantly advanced. You might notice it as feeling weaker on stairs than you used to. Fatigue after activities that didn't used to tire you. A sense that your body just isn't responding the way it once did. Sarcopenia is not inevitable. Let me repeat that. It is not inevitable. Research suggests that adequate protein intake, combined with movement, can dramatically slow this process. But the challenge is that many older adults are eating far less protein than their body actually needs, often without realizing it. The USDA nutrition guidance for older adults specifically calls out the importance of including protein-rich foods at multiple points throughout the day. Not just at dinner, not just in one big meal, but distributed across breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Here's why that matters. Your muscles can only use a certain amount of protein for repair and building at one time. If you eat very little protein at breakfast and lunch, and then load up at dinner, your body can't store the excess protein the way it stores other nutrients. That extra protein doesn't go to your muscles, it gets processed out. So what does this look like in practice? It means thinking about protein at every meal, not obsessively, not with a scale and a calculator, just intentionally. Breakfast might include eggs, Greek yogurt, or a smoothie with protein-rich ingredients like yogurt and a handful of nuts. Lunch might include seafood, beans, or lean poultry. Dinner can include a full protein source, of course: chicken, fish, turkey, lentils, whatever fits your eating pattern and your preferences. The USDA guidance specifically highlights seafood, dairy, fortified soy products, beans, peas, and lentils as excellent protein sources for older adults. And the recommendation isn't to choose one of those, it's to rotate through them. Different proteins bring different nutritional profiles. Salmon brings omega-3 fatty acids. Beans bring fiber. Eggs bring vitamin D and choline. Variety, again, is the theme. All right, we're about 65% of the way through what I want to share with you today, and I'm going to be direct with you right now. This next section is the part that I think genuinely matters most. Not the most dramatic, not the most surprising, but the most practical and, I believe, the most transformative for how you feel day to day. Because so far we've talked about eating patterns and protein. Important, yes. But what I'm about to walk you through addresses the single most overlooked gap in how older adults eat. The one that quietly affects energy, digestion, medication effectiveness, kidney function, and even cognitive sharpness. I'm talking about water, and I'm talking about sodium. Stay with me, because this is not what you think it is. Here's a fact that most people find genuinely surprising. The sensation of thirst, the feeling that tells your body it needs water, becomes less reliable as you age. Your body's thirst signals weaken over time. This means that by the time an older adult feels thirsty, they may already be in a state of mild dehydration. And mild dehydration in older adults doesn't always look like what you'd expect. It doesn't always feel like dry mouth or intense thirst. It can show up as fatigue, mild confusion, headaches, constipation, joint discomfort, even increased sensitivity to medications. The USDA nutrition guidance for older adults specifically calls out the importance of drinking plenty of water throughout the day and not waiting for thirst to prompt it. This isn't a small footnote. It's a genuine daily health practice that has cascading effects on nearly every system in your body. And here's the other side of this coin. While many older adults are quietly underhydrated, they're also, often unknowingly, over-consuming sodium. Not because they're shaking extra salt onto everything, but because sodium hides in the foods we eat every day: canned goods, bread, deli meats, sauces, soups, frozen meals, restaurant food. High sodium intake is directly linked to elevated blood pressure. And elevated blood pressure is one of the leading risk factors for heart disease and stroke, two conditions that disproportionately affect adults over 60. The guidance from USDA researchers is clear. Reduce sodium not by stripping flavor from your food, but by replacing sodium-heavy seasoning with herbs, spices, and citrus. A squeeze of lemon juice over roasted vegetables. Fresh herbs on proteins. Garlic and ginger in soups. These aren't just flavor tricks. They're nutritional upgrades that also support healthy blood pressure. And the practical version of this is simpler than you might think. Start reading labels with one specific focus: the sodium content per serving. Most health guidance suggests that older adults aim for no more than 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day, and ideally less. A single can of soup can contain 800 to 900 milligrams. A serving of deli meat can carry 400 to 500 milligrams. These numbers add up quickly without you ever reaching for the salt shaker. This isn't about perfection, it's about awareness. Once you start seeing these numbers, your habits naturally begin to shift, and that shift, over weeks and months, can have a meaningful impact on how your cardiovascular system functions. Let's talk about two more nutrients that deserve specific attention for adults over 50: vitamin B12 and vitamin D. These two vitamins are critical for neurological function, bone health, energy metabolism, and immune support. And both of them become harder for the body to absorb efficiently as we age. Vitamin B12, specifically, is absorbed through the stomach lining, and stomach acid production decreases with age. This means that even people who eat B12-rich foods like meat, fish, and dairy may not be absorbing adequate amounts of this vitamin. The USDA guidance specifically recommends that older adults look for foods fortified with B12. Some breakfast cereals are a good example, and to talk with their doctor about whether a B12 supplement might be appropriate. This is not a recommendation to self-diagnose or rush out and buy supplements. It's a recommendation to have the conversation with your healthcare provider. B12 deficiency can mimic symptoms of cognitive decline and fatigue, and it's entirely addressable when identified. Vitamin D is similarly important. It supports bone density, immune function, and muscle strength, 3 things that become more precious every year after 50. Many older adults, particularly those who live in northern climates or who spend limited time outdoors, are low in vitamin D. Again, a conversation with your doctor, possibly a simple blood test, can clarify where you stand. Neither of these is something to panic about. They're things to be aware of and to take seriously, because awareness is the first step toward action. Now, I want to bring all of this together in a way that's actually usable, because I know how easy it is to hear good nutrition information and still feel frozen when you're standing in front of the stove at 6 o'clock wondering what to make for dinner. The gap between knowing and doing is real, and I respect that. So here are 5 realistic shifts that align with what the research actually recommends. The first is to plan your meals in advance, even loosely. You don't need a rigid meal plan printed and laminated on your fridge, but having a general idea on Sunday of what you'll eat Monday through Thursday removes the decision fatigue that leads to last-minute poor choices. It also naturally leads to better variety, because when you plan ahead, you're less likely to reach for the same 3 things every week. The second is to put protein on your plate at every meal, not just dinner. A hard-boiled egg at breakfast, a handful of beans in your lunchtime salad, a piece of salmon at dinner. These small additions compound into meaningful muscle support over time. Your muscles don't care if the protein comes from a fancy source. They just care that it arrives regularly. The third is to keep a water bottle visible. This sounds almost embarrassingly simple, but hydration research consistently shows that environmental cues matter. If the water bottle is on the counter, you drink more water. If it's in the cabinet, you forget it exists. Use your environment to support your intentions. Put water where you can see it. The fourth is to add color to every meal. Not artistically, nutritionally. Different colored fruits and vegetables correspond to different antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals. If your plate is mostly beige, it's mostly starchy carbohydrates. If your plate has red, green, orange, or purple on it, you're naturally increasing your nutrient diversity without having to think very hard about it. A handful of baby spinach, some sliced red bell pepper, a few strawberries on the side, that's it. That's color on your plate. And the fifth is to talk to your doctor before making dramatic changes. This is not a disclaimer I'm adding to protect myself. It's genuinely good advice. Your doctor knows your specific health conditions, your medications, your history. What's ideal for one person over 60 may not be appropriate for another. Nutrition guidance is a framework. Your healthcare provider helps you apply it to you. That partnership matters. Here's what I want you to take away from today. Your body, right now, is doing something remarkable. It's maintaining itself, healing itself, adapting itself, every single day. And it's doing all of that with whatever raw material you're giving it. The question isn't whether you can be healthier at 55 or 65 or 75 than you are today. Research strongly suggests that you can be. The question is whether you have the right information, the right framework, and the right sense of what's actually possible. You're not too old for this to matter. You're exactly the right age for this to matter. The work that happens in your kitchen over the next few months, the protein you add to breakfast, the water you drink between meals, the sodium you quietly reduce, the vegetables you rotate into your week, that work shows up in how you feel walking upstairs, in how clearly you think in the afternoon, in how independently you're able to live year after year. This is not small stuff. This is your quality of life. And quality of life is worth paying attention to. Before you go, I want to mention something we didn't get to cover today. And honestly, it surprised me when I came across it in the research. There's a specific connection between meal timing and how older adults absorb nutrients that almost nobody talks about. It has to do with the window after exercise when your body is most receptive to protein, and with how eating patterns across the entire day influence things like blood sugar regulation and energy consistency. It's nuanced, it's genuinely interesting, and it's the kind of thing that makes you rethink not just what you eat, but when you eat it. We'll cover that in a future video. And if you want to be here for that one, if you want to keep getting clarity on how to age with strength rather than confusion, subscribe to this channel. There's no agenda here other than giving you good information that you can actually use. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring about this. And remember, every meal is a small decision that adds up to something much bigger. Take care of yourself. You've earned it.